Okay, so first of all, I'm not an advocate of war because obviously war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing except for making a whole lot of money. So, first thing that comes to mind is going short on TSM, so Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, because obviously, how are they going to get their chips out of Taiwan if there's this war going on? I would expect, a potential 90% wipeout on, TSM stock. And obviously, the entire global equities market should immediately respond in an adverse manner. So, obviously, a stock market crash is what I'm saying. And so, you probably want to liquidate a lot of your positions, a lot of your long positions on the stock market. And I wouldn't usually recommend, I've never actually opened a short position and I've never used any leverage. However, in this instance, I might actually advocate for taking a leveraged short position on TSM, as obviously they're going to be one of the worst hit stocks in a conflict between Taiwan and China. And obviously, I don't want a war between Taiwan or any kind of conflict between Taiwan and China. Love Taiwanese people. China's great, great trading partner with the rest of the world. And, essentially, so we don't want any war or conflict. However, what trades, I watched the Kitco video regarding, a potential conflict between Taiwan and China. And, I thought this would just be a fun video to make, on a hypothetical scenario. So this is how, I would play it. Now, if you're not a professional trader, then I don't recommend you do anything yourself. You could copy my positions, on Etoro and let me take care of the execution, or you could pick one of your other favorite traders that you trust and rely upon to make the best strategic decisions in such a situation, right? Because obviously it's going to be a global conflict. It's going to most probably crash the stock market and the global equities markets, commodities included. Now, TSM is going to be really hard hit because they're not going to be able to get their chips out of China. They manufacture something like 24, I haven't done any research, I'm just going off the top of my head here. We're making this video. So I think they make something somewhere around 24% of the globe's chips and microchips, that is, and almost 90%, up to 90% of the high-end chips. So your high-tech chips, sub 10 nanometers, so 5 nanometers to 7 nanometer chips, they've got the capability, whereas a lot of others don't. So, we could expect a large wipeout on TSM stock. There should be almost no bids coming in. So essentially, within 3 days, a 3-day window, you could see a massive crash in the TSM stock. And, if the war does happen to be quite extreme, and TSM foundries get hit by some missiles or something like that, you could be looking at a total insolvency and a total loss on TSM. So, they would obviously be quite a safe short position, whereas shorting is very risky. In such a situation, it could be an opportunity. So, what else is going to be hit hard? Obviously, you're going to take your profits from TSM and, you're going to roll that into other positions. Now that's going to be hard to predict. However, you might want to take a short position on Apple, which is very unusual. Like, who would take a short position on Apple? Well, in such a situation, you probably could, because Apple, obviously, if they're taking TSM chips and manufacturing in China, they're not going to have any production capability for their iPhone in such a conflict between Taiwan and China. They're going to be really screwed. So, Apple is going down big time, and it probably would be safe to open a short position. And obviously your ex-Taiwanese, obviously you're chip manufacturers that rely heavily on Taiwanese manufacturing. So like say AMD obviously contracts a lot of their chip manufactured to TSM. So you're going to want to get rid of those. You're going to potentially want to short those stocks, and you're going to want to load up long on ex-China, ex-Taiwanese chip manufacturers. So first of all, what comes to mind is Samsung. If South Korea isn't impacted by this conflict, you're going to want to check that. But if they're not impacted, then you probably want to open a long position with some of those profits, roll that into Samsung or a Samsung heavy ETF like EWF. Anyway, so obviously Samsung's going to benefit extremely well. They're going to have a large market share in chip manufacture, and especially they're probably going to be the most have a total market share almost of the high-end chips, having capability to manufacture those. And obviously with the iPhone taking a massive hit with the incapability to manufacture, then Samsung has a large potential there to establish a majority market share in the phone market and in the mobile phone market space, as well as the chip space and the semiconductor space. So obviously Samsung returns could be absolutely enormous. Several times your investment. If you take Apple for example, whatever they're trading at today, whatever multiple, obviously Apple grew to a very large position. You could base your Samsung estimates on, Apple, if Samsung was to be in place of Apple, and how they would establish a total share of the a large market share of the mobile phone communication market. You could be valuing Samsung way higher than it is today, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And then you might want to take your profits from there and roll it into some of the smaller, microchip semiconductor players, some of the penny stocks, because obviously they're going to go from low profits or being small to being larger players as they absorb market share, given the global chip shortage that would result from TSM's demise, I guess. Depending on how extreme this conflict is, right? That's something you'd have to evaluate. But if we're talking about a full-blown conflict, TSM's pretty screwed. So you might want to find some of those smaller market cap chip players, semiconductor players. You might want to consider Wolfspeed, because obviously, your silicon carbide, might establish quite a share. We've already seen that GM, General Motors, is taking their cars Wolfspeed. They're adopting the silicon carbide chips. So, Wolfspeed might be a good one. It's hard to say at the present time what to invest, but obviously when it comes to this conflict, then that's where we want to be looking at what to invest in. And if the conflict does draw in the US, then you might want to consider what stocks are going to appreciate from that conflict in the US, and obviously that's your military stock suppliers. So think like Northrop Grumman with the new Raider. Obviously they produced the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. That would certainly play a role in the conflict, you'd imagine. Lockheed Martin with the F-22 Raptor and F-35s. So obviously if there's aerial fights, then aerial warfare, fighter jets, LMT. And also perhaps your weapons, your missile and bomb manufacturers. However, your big players in aviation space is, your Northrop Grumman, your LMT and your Raytheon. But yeah, you could look at some of the more smaller weapon suppliers, depending on how this conflict escalates. And do I believe it's probable? No, I don't think there's going to be any conflict between Taiwan China in a military incursion sort of sense. You know, obviously such a conflict would be completely reckless, and if it does potentially draw in the US, then that's a big problem for China, because obviously the US has the most advanced weaponry and capability in the world. They can basically strike anywhere on the planet with their stealth bombers. So no one wants to create a World War III here. I don't know why there's people talking about this on YouTube, but I guess it's just a fun hypothetical topic, and I'm more interested in about how it's going to make us rich. You know, where other people are going to basically be losing a hell of a lot of money, and we're going to be cashing in on these semiconductor and potential military supply trades. So, you know, there's a lot of money to be made, and you want to definitely be on the right side of the trade. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see what happens.